Every boulder has a beta. Some betas make sense, some don't.
Oh my God.
Some are just outright stupid. So today I'm gonna show you some boulders I've done recently with some truly wacky betas. First up is a V5 slab boulder. Now this boulder starts simple enough. You stand on the volume, you stand up into this sloper move. Now I was really struggling to figure out what the beta was for this boulder. I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to get on top of this big hold so that I could match the finish hold. So I asked somebody, I said, hey, how do you do the second half of this boulder? And they said, oh, you just gotta pull on the side pull, get your heel up on the big hold, which is above the side pull, mind you, and just pull up on top of it until you're perched on it on one leg so you can match the finish. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I came here to rock climb, not to tear my hamstring in half. So I came up with a beta of my own that not only makes the boulder significantly easier, but also just completely shits on the original beta. And if you're wondering, yeah, it does hurt a little bit to do it this way, but you know what hurts more? Tearing your scrotum in half. Next up is a V6 boulder on a vert wall. The beta for this boulder is to stand up into this side pull and catch this crimp with your left hand. Now you're probably thinking, that's not that weird, and that doesn't even sound that hard. You're just standing up and catching a hold. Well, what if I told you that when you stand up into this side pull, you swing harder than Jada Smith? Now you're probably like, okay, I get it. There's a hard swing, but once you catch the crimp, surely it's easy then, right? Wrong. Once you catch the crimp with your left hand, you have to immediately release your right hand and then palm press on the sloper to stop the swing. I don't know about you, but I like going rock climbing because I don't have to think. I can just climb, turn my brain off, and chill. I don't want to be doing calculus on the wall, okay? Thankfully, once you stick the precise timing and coordination for this move, the rest of it is pretty chill. Next up is a V5 with one of the wackiest betas I've ever seen. So you start off with a right-handed palm press, which allows you to get a pretty nice heel hook in. Once you get the heel hook in, you move your right hand over to the sloper, but that's still not good enough yet because the sloper is not good enough for you to really pull on its own. So you have to switch the heel hook to a toe hook so that you can get a little bit more range and get your right hand out to the jug. Now you can just start with the toe hook and leave it in the whole time. I just like to start with the heel because tall people and toe hooks go together as well as Will and Jada Smith.
Wow, dude.
All right, that's the last Will and Jada joke, I swear. Now, once you have the jug in your right hand, the next challenge is releasing the toe hook. And this is problematic because when you release the toe hook, you swing harder than Jada. So what you have to do is release your left hand and find a hold that's conveniently located in your genital region. Now this is really awkward to grab in this position. I like to think that if my Kegel strength was a bit harder, I could just kind of no-hand it, you know? You know what I'm talking about. But once you have this hold secured in your left hand, you release the toe hook and just pray that you can hold the swing. And just like the previous boulder, the rest of it's a piece of cake. Now the next one doesn't have a particularly weird beta, it just pisses me off, so I wanted to put it in here. This boulder is a V8 and it starts off pretty chill until you get to the pockets. Once you have this pocket secured in your right hand, you have to bicycle the hold below you so that you can release your left hand to reach up to the next pocket. Now I've said this before, I have a 6'5" wingspan. Look at my arm here. My armpit is basically touching the hold I'm supposed to be bicycling. There is no room for my actual torso anywhere between these two holds. So I basically just look like a big sagging bag of shit on the wall while trying to hold core tension so that I can reach up with my left hand. And if you're wondering, yeah, the pocket's a piece of shit. Now this next one just has a really cool beta that I thought was kind of creative, so I thought I'd throw it in here. The next boulder comes from a glow-in-the-dark climbing competition I did recently. I was gonna do an entire video on this comp. I even got these cool like glow-in-the-dark strips on my arms and legs so I look like a skeleton man climbing, and you know, I was kind of picturing it looking like this. But once I got home and started editing the footage, I saw that it actually looked like this. Thankfully, once the comp was over, they turned the lights back on, and I went back and filmed probably my favorite dyno of the comp. Now, the reason I thought this dyno was kind of interesting is because it is deceivingly hard for what it looks like. This is one of those boulders that if you show people a video of that don't even rock climb, they'd be like, yeah, I could do that. You're just running along a couple platforms and then grabbing the other holds, right? Because of the overhang with the wall, you can't make any steps with your left foot. So if you go to take a step with the right foot, you can rotate and then jump to the hold. But if you try to take a step with the left, you have to make room for your knee, which will then cause you to completely come off the wall. So this makes the start really awkward because the only way to really do this is to start with your left foot forward. But if you start with your left foot forward, you can't get any momentum for the dyno. So I just thought this was a really cool, slightly awkward dyno with a really interesting beta. Now I know you guys are all dying to see some footage from the glow comp, you know, I'm not stupid, so I'll show you my two favorite boulders I did that turned out somewhat viewable on camera. The first one is a really cool sideways and slightly backwards dyno to a sloper. Getting to the sloper isn't really that bad, but holding onto this sloper during the swing is harder than holding on to Jada Smith in a relationship. And can I just say, this was without a doubt the coolest comp I've ever been to. Every comp should look like this. But aside from the bouldering wall, they had a DJ, they had a dance floor, they had people showing up, not even competing in the comp. Like there were probably at least 24 people there, just like eating pizza, drinking, and partying and dancing the entire time. Like it was no connection to the comp whatsoever. It was basically like a rock climbing comp at a nightclub, except in nightclubs, you usually don't have a bunch of kids running around. Which brings me to the last boulder of this video. Now this boulder was in, without a doubt, the most problematic area of this comp. This was a massive comp. They had 5 categories for climbing in this comp. They had youth, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and open. And this is the only gripe I had with this comp. Having youth and adult climbers in the same comp at the same time is just a recipe for disaster. So the section of the wall that I'm talking about here had 2 boulders on it. Open 8, which is the hardest boulder in the comp, and Youth 1, the easiest boulder in the comp. I don't know what genius decided to put the hardest and the easiest boulders right next to each other, but essentially none of the open climbers, including myself, got any time on Open 8 because there was just a gang of kids standing on the mat. They were just cycling in and out of Youth 1, not letting anyone else onto the mat. And that's my main problem with kids in the climbing gym in general. They're just so inconsiderate. They will block everybody from using an entire wall just so they can practice one boulder. And you would think like, okay, well, you know, it's not their fault, they're kids, they don't know any better. The parents will probably, you know, be like, hey, get out of the way. No, the parents never do anything. I don't know what it is about parents of kids at rock climbing gyms. They just sit there and watch everybody glare at their kids and just don't do anything. And occasionally you get that parent that's like hyper protective of their kid and they like walk up on the mat with them and they like turn around and face everybody backwards on the mat like they're protecting the quarterback. And it's like, yeah, you see how defensive you're being right now? That's because you know you're doing something wrong. So if you take anything away from this video, don't be scared of boulders just because they have a weird or a difficult looking beta. You can always find your own way to do it for the most part. And if you can't, screw that boulder anyway. And also, ban kids from rock climbing gyms. Who needs them?